Alright, so a lot of you have asked how I do some of my graphics for my social media or my overlays, including how I do some of the giveaway stuff I've done for some of my friends. What I want to talk about today is how I do the True Talk podcast advertisement and go live screen, as well as how I do my general templates for the GamerDad stream. I want to take this image here on the page, which is my stream anniversary advertisement, and I want to show you how I built that. Build onto a template from that concept so you can reuse this over and over for any of your other graphics. I also want to then talk about this image here. Now this is the pre-edited image when I threw it together. I've made some tweaks to it since then, which I'll show you in a minute, on how I got a much more clean and desirable look. Let's start with this advertisement first. Now this is for social media. I put this on Twitter, Facebook, all the Discord channels where I'm allowed to advertise, because pro tip, don't just throw images all over the place. It's going to annoy people. Make sure you put it in the appropriate spots. We'll probably talk about that sometime in the future. Now, for this image, we're going to get from here to here. I'm going to copy and paste a lot of it. You're going to use the text fields for a lot of it, but I want to kind of get you the concept of what I've built onto. So let's start. I went and worked with a good friend of mine. She helped me to build a gradient. If you don't know how to do that, we can go over that also in the future. Essentially, I took a rectangle the size of the screen, size of the image, which I'm doing it, you can see down here, 1920 by 1080 is the size of this image. And what I did was just built a gradient across. These are the colors of my brand. So we're going to black into a gray, fading over to my GamerDad blue, as we've nicknamed it. So that's one thing I do to keep all of my branding consistent, is have my colors all uniform. I have the hex key or hex code for all of my colors saved or written down, so I can always go back and reference them and make sure that everything is a consistent shade. First things first, build your background, and you can use anything. For the True Gaming podcast, the True Talk podcast that I've got a pre-built image that I was given. You don't have to develop your own. You can just start with whatever kind of clip art or media you already have. Sometimes you're going to want to use a transparent background. In this case, I've got mine. And what I want to show you is using Affinity Designer now. This is the software we're on here. We're going to show the guides. Now I've already built the guides here. I have a vertical and horizontal line for the center of the image itself. And then I broke everything up into thirds. All of your different editing softwares will let you build guidelines differently. For this tool, if you go to View and go to your Guides Manager, you can build in all of your lines. And these are imaginary lines. They will not be on the output. They are just meant to be guidelines, just like they're called, so you can see where everything is. So I know that this is the top right third, bottom left third. We've effectively broken the image up into 9 quadrants and then the center lines. So how do we get this to this? First things first, I cheated a little bit. I've got my logo already set up, so we're going to copy my logo from here. What you're typically going to want to do is bring in your image. Let me actually get rid of these other layers. You're going to bring in your image. And for my advertisements, as you can see, this is very in your face, very bright, catches a lot. Here, it's more subtle, it's more faded. We're going to want to do that same effect. Now, I'm going to go ahead ultimately and copy and paste the layer over to the other image, but I want to show you real quick just a little bit. There's a couple of different tweaks you can do. So if we grab this, you can just adjust the opacity. If I butcher the words, I apologize, don't make fun of me. You can just change it. We'll go to 50, right? We'll look at it. Switch over to here. I wonder what this one's at, 40% with pass-through. So we can drop this down to 40. And we can drop this down with pass through. Not even seeing it. That's okay. Either way, we've got a faded image. It's alright, guys. This one's not going to be perfect. Like I said, I am going to be bringing over some of the finished effects just to save time. Just want to explain them. So this is my general background. And let me go ahead and copy. And we're going to delete this one. First, we're going to paste. Alright, so typically this is how I'm going to start things off. Nice and clean. I've got my background, which is composed of a faded space and my logo. This is what I'm going to build everything off of, and you can see the size of this, right? Look here, the insides of my logo fit those thirds almost perfectly, right? So the center point, the main part of the GamerDad letters are dead center and don't take up too much of the screen. The rest of the logo kind of fades in the background. Perfect. Now, we got a lot going on here. My focal point is going to be the top of this image. This is me. This is my stream anniversary party. Boom. So we're going to go ahead, go to our text. I'm going to want it centered. Okay. Default for this application is to do black text, Arial 12 point. We don't like any of that. First of all, we can't see it. So we'll make it white so it fits in. Second of all, that's not my font. I went online and I got a hold of Nouveau Grotesque. So now we're a little bit better. Matches my brand. First thing, I made the text a center point. So it's centered on the top. We'll go ahead and use the top third. There it is. We can size it up a little bit. Cool thing about this application is as you use it, it lets you, it'll preview. Right? We're still okay. It looks alright. Looks kind of boring right now. What I want to do is highlight anniversary. And if you have the different formats of the font, you can change your type. So we'll make these all regular, or you can do medium. We'll actually make them, we could try light, and then we can mess with this one, and we make it bold, and see how we like that. Maybe that's a little too much. So we can just kind of do regular, and then make this bold. Boom. So there you go. There's what this is. So if anything, we're now telling everybody, boom, this is an anniversary party. Okay, cool. Technically speaking, I probably want to cut this area in half. So you can go ahead and edit your guides, and we can add a new horizontal guide. If we're at 33, half of that is going to be, what, 16 and a half? So 100 divided by 3, that's what we did our 33%, 33.33 technically. We're going to divide that in half again. And so if we make a new guide at 1666, boom, close. Now, here's the fun part. If I move, you see how now that red line shows up? That means that I'm centering over that guideline, and I'm centering over. So now this is exactly where I want it to be. I'm using all of the center real estate of that top third. Also, let's tell them who I am. I don't think we want this all to be bold, so we'll make it regular. And one of the things that I have come to do with my logo is stress, whoops, ignore that last part. We'll mess with all of this. Well, we don't want my name to really take up too much. So we'll just, boom. So now that's me, right? It's the GamerDad NC stream anniversary party. Easy enough. Looking good. Kind of getting it there. We got a funny, like a silly little thing. So if I divide by 2 again. And we, let's see, select, I mean, we can go crazy with guidelines, guys. There's really not a full limit. And sometimes it's not going to be perfect to use them. So if we take GamerDad, like if I were to do this, right, that looks awful, right? But that's okay. We're just going to move this up. We're going to set it right on top of it. Now down here, we can take advantage of this. So we're going to make it, we're going to make a little thing. Have I been doing this too long? Probably. And we're gonna spell it right. We're not gonna make this bold. We're gonna be regular. We're going to put this right here on that bottom guideline. It's way too big, so we're gonna reduce that size a little bit. Right? Think of it as like a little tagline. So if anything, there we go. Now we've got the top looking all pretty. Cool. Turn the guides back on. And the key here is to work around a lot of these guidelines, which I want to remove some of them. Right, so now we've got that top real estate kind of taken up. And this is by no means a perfect science. I'm not doing this 100% accurately. I understand that. I respect that. So we are trying to work with what we got. Some of the other things I have going on here, I did take a Firefly logo because one of the things that I'm doing is a Firefly and a Brave cosplay for this anniversary party. So for those that know about that going on, I've taken the Firefly image. I'm not going to go through how to mask it, so we're just going to copy it. But I want this image to be front and center. So there we go. I'm going to grab it, make sure that it is dead center. As a matter of fact, there. Boom, nice and centered. Technically speaking, we could probably go a little bit bigger to kind of use that real estate, but at the same time, alright, so we could do that. I don't like that looking so big because I feel like it masks over top of the GamerDad logo too much. You still want some of that to be visible. So we're going to grab that. We also have some advertising going on. There's going to be text on the left and right. Let's go ahead and finish working our way down the middle though. So right down here, we're doing this August 18th. And we just want to put dead center all the important stuff. At the very top, here's the party. At the very bottom, some of the details. You're getting everything you need right down the middle. I'm going to go ahead and cheat again and copy these. But what you would want to do is go to your text tool, paste them on in there. Now I am going to take these and do a little bit of work. So we're going to go back to the guides manager. We are going to add one in at 75 because that was kind of the top. So we have 100 divided by 3 to get us our main guidelines. Let's see. So I'm going to split that bottom third directly in half. And then we're going to add some more. All I'm doing is taking these in equal segments. Okay, so here's the bottom third. So we could probably take, you know, here, boom, and boom. There we go. Now it's a little bit more centered. If I go back to the guides manager, all I really did was from this bottom third, I tried to break the bottom third into thirds. So we're going to delete. And I'm just putting these down towards the bottom. Now, I could have even gone to the extent of, if I have this one, right, that might look a little too low. But right here, where the Twitch GamerDad, you know, my GamerDad page, that is focused right there on it. That's the dead center of the bottom third of the page. And then the August is centered at the halfway point below that. We could do some tricks, move some things around, and kind of focus everything like this. Probably too close, but the general idea, move it up, save some space. I don't want to do that just yet. I'm going to leave it all the way down at the bottom, just to kind of leave some things open. So we are using that bottom third. All right. I went online, grabbed some images. So we're just going to take the images that we want. We are going to fill the bottom third, of course. Whoops, we don't want to zoom out. So a little bit of graphical use there, and graphical use here. Now we do have the Slow Fuse logo because we are going to be using their site to purchase some of our giveaway items. And I want this in the very bottom left corner. I want to be very careful not to overshadow the date though. So again, if I go back and if I look at the 33.33 right, the left, so 33.33 divided by 2 is again 16.66%. So if I make a guideline, a vertical guideline at 16.66, I can now center this in the bottom left quadrant. I could technically, or should technically, do that with the Space Marine. The only problem is, you see it's cropped. So we're going to leave it in the bottom right corner. It's not going to be perfect, but we're going to make it look good enough. Alright, now, we got all this real estate that's blank. This looks kind of awkward. I'm leaving the important parts for last. You'll notice I've got these text pieces. So like I said, I'm going to copy and paste. You can call me a cheater in the comments below. It's cool. But what I want to do is now center this. And we're going to make another vertical guideline over here. We're going to do this at 83.325, which is half of this rightmost quadrant, and then we're going to cover that. Now, kind of close. Problem that we have is some of the text here is a little bit longer than some of the text here, but it's close. So now we've filled our space. There's a couple of things I could do. We are a little bit off balance because the Space Marine on the right and the Slow Fuse Gaming text or image on the left. It feels a little bit off, but I want to call it good there. The key is using your thirds, using your quadrants, and filling in everything based on the template. The other important detail is I'm going to close this. I don't want to save this because I already have it saved. So you've seen me build it. Oh, real quick, another thing to pay attention to. Some of this stuff is kind of off because of the ordering. Look at the GamerDad, how it fades. So we just bring this down to the bottom and then bring this down to the bottom. You could just make sure the order of things. Your background image should be the lowest, and then your background logo should be next above that. Everything else should be stacked accordingly. If I were to do something like make this go to the bottom, it vanishes. If I put this between the two, it's hidden, although that looks kind of cool. So we'll just undo those moves. Boom. So we are going to close this and rely on what we have here. So that is the image. What's really, really great is you can either delete or hide everything and just stick with this, and then you can start all over and do something different. For example, I did a paint panel with a guest, Suchi Kuchi, and on my graphic it's the same thing. It's the same GamerDad logo, it's the same background. All I did was bring in her logo, and if I were to turn on Guides Manager, so if we do 33.33 and we do 66.66, we also add in and just for argument's sake, we add in those halfway points for each one. Right, got a whole bunch of guides. That's fine. So if I were to tweak this a little bit, I could resize her logo a little bit, because you can kind of see here, this is the vertical guideline. Here's the vertical guideline for the third. So I could go back and shrink this logo down, center it directly over, so it's perfectly centered in this right center quadrant, right being the right column, center being the horizontal row. Also the same thing here, make sure that this text is directly centered in that space. I've got the Suchi Kuchi name, which is the focal point on the bottom, dead center in the bottom row, center column, and then GamerDad a little bit bigger so you know where to go. That's fine. The paint panel I could also maybe resize a little bit smaller, and then center here, top row, center column, and then put width just below it like it is now. Suchi Kuchi perfectly centered, filling up both the bottom and center row. I probably should have shrunk her head down a little, or shrunk the image down a little bit, so she kind of fills up just the bottom and center thirds of the image. So it's the same thing though. If you follow those rules of thirds, you kind of guide their faces around, and that's it. That's how I do all of my graphics. background faded image. I've done different ones throughout the last few months. I've got some that use a slightly different process. They weren't necessarily following any kind of methodology, they just kind of looked good to me, but now I'm slowly transitioning my graphical work over to this template. You should see a lot more of the faded background, faded logo, that gradient, everything like that, and then fill in the spaces around it. The other thing that I have been adding in, which I can do another tutorial on later, is this outline of Suchi Kuchi, where you have her cut out with a white border, and sometimes you have a glow effect behind her. I did that here with her logo so that we didn't get the black lost in the rest of the image, so I added a slight white border so it stood out a little bit. You don't want to go too crazy because you could go over the top and take away from the image, but subtle things here. That's it for the rule of thirds. That's it for how I do my templates. We will have another tutorial in the near future of how we do the golden circle, and coincidentally or unintentionally, I've been building the True Talk podcast off of that methodology. So we're going to come back and we're going to talk about how to do that. Thanks everybody for watching. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to put them in the YouTube video comment section below, or reach out to me, GamerDadNC, all one word, @gmail.com. Thank you very much for watching, and you guys have a great day.